first poem I'm going to read is a poem on poetics, so it seems appropriate. And this poem takes its inspiration from the figure of Emily Dickinson. Here, there, everywhere, forever. I do not cultivate my garden in depth. I'm only trying to cover the surface. Therefore, I plant footsteps. If you strip waiting of all expectation, what is there left? A constant presence. To be sure, in order to be invariably present, you ought to learn to be absent. Myself, I picked out a white dress. Others invented different devices for disappearing. A beekeeper's outfit, for instance. Yet others set themselves up inside a window frame and stayed stock still. It appears static, but it's not. Duration is to blame, which crystallizes it. The mechanism is vibration, abandonment, faith, annihilation, joy. Not in that order, and without the feeling. Next, I'm going to read some poems from my latest book, titled The Book of Soil. How to advance in a field. Even though there is no door, we entered somewhere. At once, we came face to face with the process of transformation. Tens of tiny birds, previously invisible, took flight from the ground, touching the tops of the standing crops, thus making them breathe, making them take part in the flight. Every cornstalk, it seemed, gave birth to a bird. At a certain moment, they stopped. Not one of them remained. We didn't know yet how to advance, with our question pale green in the hand. Had it been a well, we would have cast a stone and waited for the response. Or it might have been enough to seize some elements, plants, a little earth, in order to draw our conclusions. That is to say, by an attack or theft. We decided to forget ourselves in our little choreography. Forgetting, just like entering, is a departure. What ought we to have left behind? Giant thorns with a saturated orange color turned their heads in the imperceptible air, as if they were about to move forward. In the whole place, as we were approaching what we would call center, there was only the sense of beginning. The field, a clenched fist that would not show. The next poem refers to a real landscape. Cape Teneron is the southernmost tip of continental Greece. Ancient Greeks believed it to be the end of the world. I often imagine my books as spaces that could be inhabited, but perhaps in order to inhabit a landscape, one should also somehow invent it. Then, here the days do not dissolve in the air. They drop into the water, forming their very own layer, a surface of separation. A hawk flies above the body of the summer. He dives again and again, feeding and getting drunk from falling. There is nothing here, only crazy wind and stones and sea. A random promise sharpens our lust with a blade of moon. When I arrived for the first time in this landscape of endings, the wind entered my mouth with such fury as if I were its sole receptacle, until all my words disappeared, Every tree receives the wind differently. Some suffer, others resist. I met a palm tree that gave birth to the wind and distributed it in every direction. Others shake all over and change colours. I, of course, am not a tree. I sat down and wore the wind as a coat. I bent my head and looked at the ground. From its crevices, the roots of time, with their hieroglyphics, struggled to enter the light. Then the words came back. I will read a small poem in Greek. Ηλιοπούλου. Μέσα στη δέσμη του φωτός εμφανίστηκε, διέσχισε το δρόμο. Μια μικρή καφέ Αλεπού. Και ξανά το επόμενο βράδυ, πίσω από ένα θάμνο φρυγαλέα, και μια άλλη φορά η ουρά της μόνο σκούπισε το σκοτάδι. Και από τότε πάλι τις πατούσες της να βηματίζουν στο βλέμμα σου. Το ζεστό γούνιμο σώμα της, ανάμεσά μας να σκυρτά. Πάντα σε πέρασμα, ποτέ σε στάση. «Μα ποια είσαι?» τη ρωτήσαμε. «Είμαι», είπε, «αυτό που περισσεύει». And the same in English. The fox. In the sea of light she appeared, crossed the road, a small brown fox. And again the next evening, behind a bush fleetingly, and another time only her tail swept the darkness, and from then on her paws walking inside your eyes, her warm fairy body skipping between us, always passing, never stationary. But who are you? We asked. I am, she said, what is always in excess. This next poem refers to Andrei Kertész, the Hungarian photographer whose work I love. The American poet Mark Strand said once that art is a desire for more life, and I think this is central to every human being. On weekend legs, I walked around the town the whole day. I took photographs. The Hungarian photographer Andrei Kertész, with his walking during 30 years, wore up a network of streets of at least 3 cities. 85 now, confined by grief to his apartment on Fifth Avenue in New York, he photographs whatever is around him with a Polaroid. With the delicate movements of a glass statue, he changes his position in the room. He shifts the focal axis of his gaze. He doesn't need to go anywhere. He says, I forgot to eat. I took photos. I started at daybreak and waited until dusk. I took photos again and again. I forgot my medicine. 2 years later, in the book entitled From My Window, you can see the city melting through the window pane. You can see the shadow of a hand menacing a shiny doorknob without ever reaching it. A diaphanous glass bust slowly digesting the naked trees of the park and the twin towers above the windowsill. You can see what you don't see. He did come outside again. He photographed the spasm of a little girl running in the park and the half figure of a man in black disappearing. In Paris, he photographed himself double in the mirror, closing his eyes, and a crumpled, half-opened white door. Every day, he collects the brittle, honeyless wasp nests, restless wax catacombs of buzzing. Every evening, he empties them in his bottomless archive. There's no way you can stop this. It's not a place that would be possible to leave. Every formulation, every construction of death is resurrected in the buzzing that seeks still more. More snow and networks of traces. More mirroring of the shadow on the whitewash. More walking with a strange suspension of joy when he lets the sting prick him again and again. This next poem is a slight different reading of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. The Song of Eurydice. Keep your promise, Orpheus. Look at me. Cultivate with your gaze the meadow of my wandering. Dig for me the journey with the stiletto of your eyes. Cast your net and draw it up empty. Gathering the drops, in each one my face will be mirrored. I am the border which continuously recedes, the guardian of distance, and your song, Orpheus, is distance. Don't leave anything untouched. Whatever thing you touch will never become your own. Every touching, all the more foreign. The more foreign, all the more creeping, and ready to touch you back, as that thing knows how. To start up the dissolution machine. And with the holding of your breath, all the blurred red takes you in. Hold on to the breathless void and weave it. My last poem, it's a very small poem. I'll read it in Greek first. Έλληνα. Όταν έρχεται, είναι μια διχάλα μέσα στη νύχτα. Πρέπει να πας εκεί και να σπάσεις το ένα κλουνάρι. Τότε σε ρουφάει με αντανάκλασή σου. Βυθίζεσαι στο νερό και παγώνεις. Είσαι τόσο ξύπνιος που νομίζεις πως δεν θα ξανακοιμηθείς ποτέ. Τα δόντια σου τρίζουν και λες, αυτό είναι, αυτό το κρυστάλλινο πράγμα. Enigma. When it comes, it is a forked stick in the night. You must go there and break one branch. Then a reflection of yourself sucks you in. You sink into the water and freeze. You are so awake, you think you will never sleep again. You gnash your teeth and say, this is it, this crystalline thing. Thank you.